Will indebted nations globally follow Venezuela, once wealthy Venezuela, into hyperinflation? Will your currency become worthless as currency wars escalate in the coming months and years? This is what we consider in today's video update. I'm Marco Byrne, Research Director of GoldCore.com, and today we look at the tragedy that's unfolding in Venezuela, where hyperinflation is ravaging the nation, impacting people of every class in that once very wealthy South American nation. It got so bad that economists, including economists in IMF, are now predicting that hyperinflation in Venezuela could reach 1,000,000% this year. So it's really escalating out of control, and economists are warning that the currency itself is in a debt spiral, and I mean that's been evident for a long period of time. But it's interesting. It seems to be coming to a head, and we covered it yesterday in our market update, which got picked up very widely internationally. And in that market update, we looked at some excellent, quite shocking images actually from Reuters, the wider image, which is a specialist division within Reuters, where they get these amazing photos, and they had these amazing photos that just captured the scale of the devastation, monetary devastation in Venezuela. And basically it showed that the currency in Venezuela, the paper currency in Venezuela, has become worthless and actually worth less than toilet paper. And it's not just the paper currency, it's the electronic currency. It's the fiat currency, both paper and digital, is now worth less than toilet paper. And they had this very striking image which showed a massive pile of Venezuelan bolivar, which is the local currency. And they showed how many of these bolivar it would take to buy one roll of toilet paper. And I have it here. It was actually 2.6 million bolivars is required to buy one roll of toilet paper. So that's equivalent to 40 cents, 40.4 of a dollar to buy one toilet roll. And once again, it underlines the risks posed by currency devaluation, and it highlights the value that even owning a small amount of gold and silver protects people from these worst case scenarios. So just the image that Reuters had was this, as I said, huge pile of these bolivar notes, and then the small roll of one roll of toilet paper, you know, and a picture paints 1,000 words. So I think a video paints 1,000 words as well. So basically this roll of toilet paper, I couldn't find toilet paper. It's actually a kitchen towel, but it's roughly two times the size of a toilet paper. So with that toilet paper, this 1 ounce of pure gold, which is a Canadian gold eagle, 1 ounce, which was worth $1,200, over 1,000 euros per ounce, over 900 pounds sterling, that could buy I think you have to divide 0.4 into 1,200. So it's about 3,000 rolls of toilet paper you could buy with that 1 ounce of gold. And again, it's shown that the people who owned gold and silver, they're protecting their standard of living, because they can buy the necessities of life with gold and with silver. And they can buy coffee, they can buy water, they can buy, you know, anything that they need day to day, you know, and because there are shopkeepers and there are farmers in Venezuela who are desperate for hard currency, and they will accept dollars or they will accept gold and silver, popular formats of gold and silver that are well known, particularly legal tender forms of gold and silver, such as the silver eagles, gold eagles from the U.S. Mint, which is legal tender U.S. dollars, and then the gold maple leaves and silver maple leaves from the Royal Canadian Mint, which are legal tender Canadian dollars. So it again highlights, and the other example is a chicken. One chicken in Venezuela today costs 14.6 million bolivars. So that's the equivalent of $2.2. So $2.20. You can get chickens quite cheap in Venezuela right now as we speak, in dollar terms, but they're you know, you cannot afford to buy them really in Venezuelan bolivar, you know, because of the scale of the hyperinflation. So again, 1 ounce of gold, you can buy 540 chickens. So you could buy yourself a small farmstead, you could buy yourself a small chicken farm with 1 ounce of gold, you know, and your standard of living, you know, you've protected yourself from this devastation, you know, and there's some terrible, tragic stories coming out about, you know, hardworking middle class people whose life savings have been completely have disappeared, you know, and that their standard of living is falling, and people are actually hungry, you know, and they're having to go over the border. The shelves in Venezuela, in the shopping centers, in the malls, and in the supermarkets, they're empty, you know, and people are having to go across the border into Venezuela, or sorry, not from Venezuela into Colombia, in order to buy basic necessities. And so it is a real tragedy, and this was one of the wealthiest nations in Venezuela. And what has happened here is basically money printing on a massive scale, which most nations in the world are doing today, including the wealthy nations. And it's money, they've increased the money supply massively, both electronically and on the paper side as well. And it's also a socialist government. And the combination of those two things is a very toxic mix, as we're seeing in Venezuela today. So the question is, we have massive debt throughout the world. Nations across the world, including the Western world, are massively indebted, and we're engaged in massive increase in expansion of the money supply. And we're printing money, we're electronically creating money in order to buy our government debt, which is completely unsustainable. So the question is hyperinflation likely in other nations? And I think it is in indebted nations throughout the world. I don't think in the short term, the Western nations, the dollar is obviously very strong right now, the euro, the pound, these nations, I think there's a bigger risk of deflation given the scale of debt. In the short term, I think there's a bigger risk of deflation. And then I think there's a risk of stagflation. I think inflation will take off some stage. But I think there's a real risk of hyperinflation in the majority of the world, the non-Western world. So if you look at Turkey, Syria, Iran, Iraq, South Africa, Angola, Argentina, these currencies are seeing quite significant depreciation of their currencies and currency devaluations. And as currency wars intensify, we expect that trend to continue. And I think periphery nations and these indebted nations around the world are very vulnerable to serious inflation and potentially hyperinflation, akin to what we're seeing in Venezuela, because ultimately all these fiat currencies are backed by absolutely nothing except the confidence of the people and the confidence of the people in the governments. And today we see around the world that people are losing confidence in their governments, and rightly so, because you know some of the actions taking place, particularly on the financial and monetary side, are very reckless indeed. And the lesson of history is that these monetary experiments do not tend to end very well, you know. So yeah, bottom line is gold and silver, that this is where they come into their own as a form of insurance, as a hedge against these worst case scenarios, whether it be stagflation or hyperinflation. And we believe we're going to see these type of scenarios throughout the world in different formats, different manifestations of them in the coming months and years. And people should diversify and protect themselves from these worst case scenarios. So to conclude, the tragic situation in Venezuela, one of the wealthiest nations in South America, highlights once again, if ever there was a reminder needed, that the value of just owning a small amount of gold. This small 1 ounce gold maple leaf from the Royal Canadian Mint, legal tender Canadian dollars. This coin alone is protecting people in Venezuela and in other countries subject to inflation today. So it just underlines, you know, these are worst case scenarios. Gold is a form of insurance against these worst case scenarios. We're not saying it's going to happen. We're not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. We do think there is a real risk in the medium and long term if governments continue creating currency in the way that they're doing today. So yeah, diversify, and as ever, it's best to hope for the best, but be prepared for less benign scenarios. So thanks for your time today. And yeah, if you like this update, please subscribe on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our market update on goldcore.com. And you can find us on all the usual channels on Facebook and Twitter, and you can follow us there and interact with us there. Any questions at all, feel free to send us a question in on the various channels, and we reply to both subscribers and clients on these channels and engage with them. So thanks again for your time. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.